How to strengthen your connection with the divine. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's easy to forget about the deeper, more spiritual aspects of existence. We often get lost in the demands of our careers, relationships, and personal struggles, and before we know it, days, weeks, even months have passed without taking a moment to reconnect with the divine. But what does it truly mean to connect with the divine? Is it simply about prayer, rituals, or following certain practices? Or is there something deeper, something more intrinsic to this connection that we often overlook? The concept of the divine is not one size fits all. For some, it's the traditional understanding of a higher power, God, gods, or spiritual beings. For others, it's about tapping into the universal energies of the universe, or seeking connection with the natural world, with other people, or even with their own inner selves. No matter how one defines it, the divine, in all its forms, has the power to provide a sense of peace, purpose, and clarity in our lives. But often, we lose sight of that connection, not because it disappears, but because we stop making the effort to engage with it. So, how can we strengthen our connection with the divine? How can we reach beyond the surface of our busy lives to rediscover the deeper, more meaningful aspects of existence? The answer, as with most profound questions, is not a simple one. It requires a journey, a process of self-reflection, practice, and openness. It's about creating space in our lives to listen, to feel, and to truly experience the presence of something greater than ourselves. In this story, we will explore the different ways we can nurture our spiritual connection. We'll uncover practices, insights, and personal stories that illuminate the path to a stronger relationship with the divine. Through meditation, gratitude, purpose, and faith, we can begin to understand that the divine isn't some distant force, but something that is already within us and all around us, waiting for us to tune in. As we move forward, remember that strengthening this connection isn't about perfection, it's about being present and open. Each step we take toward the divine is a step toward a fuller, richer life. Whether you are someone who already feels deeply connected to the divine or someone who is just beginning to explore these ideas, this journey is for you. The path may not always be clear, and sometimes it may even seem like we've wandered too far off course. But as we learn in the chapters ahead, there are always ways to return, to reconnect, and to deepen our relationship with the divine. In the journey of connecting with the divine, one of the most powerful tools available to us is meditation. Meditation is a practice that transcends religious boundaries and cultural differences, offering a universal approach to tapping into the deeper parts of ourselves and the universe. For centuries, various cultures and spiritual traditions have recognized the power of quieting the mind and turning inward. Whether it's through prayer, mindfulness, or simple breathing exercises, meditation offers a way to slow down, detach from the distractions of the world, and connect with something far greater than our daily concerns. But why is meditation such an effective method for strengthening our connection with the divine? The answer lies in the profound simplicity of the practice. Meditation creates a sacred space where we can separate ourselves from the noise of the world, the constant barrage of thoughts, and the endless cycle of doing. It's in this space of stillness that we become more attuned to the divine presence that surrounds us. When we sit in silence, we allow ourselves to be present, fully aware, and receptive to the subtle energies that may otherwise go unnoticed. This state of awareness is not about forcing ourselves into a state of perfect silence or stillness, but rather about creating room for the divine to enter and be felt. A key aspect of meditation is learning to focus the mind. In the hustle of life, our thoughts often scatter in all directions, thoughts about the past, the future, worries, desires, and everything in between. When we meditate, we practice directing our attention to the present moment. We do this by focusing on the breath, a simple and natural process that connects us to the present. With each inhale and exhale, we return to the now, to the divine. This simple act of focusing on the breath serves as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, allowing us to feel a deep connection to the life force that flows through all things. For many, meditation begins with mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in each moment without judgment. It's about noticing the sensations in the body, the thoughts that arise, and the emotions that flow through us without attaching labels or trying to control them. This awareness creates an open space for the divine to make its presence known. It allows us to feel more deeply, to understand ourselves better, and to cultivate a sense of peace and equanimity. One of the most profound experiences that often arises during meditation is a sense of oneness with the universe. As we meditate, we may begin to feel a deep sense of interconnectedness with all living things. We realize that we are not separate from the divine, but a part of it. This feeling of unity can be overwhelming in the best possible way. It's a reminder that we are never alone, that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. In this oneness, we also feel an immense sense of love, acceptance, and compassion, not only for others but also for ourselves. But how does one begin the practice of meditation? For those new to meditation, the idea of sitting still and silencing the mind can seem daunting. However, the beauty of meditation is that it can start small and grow over time. It doesn't require hours of sitting cross-legged in perfect silence, though that's a wonderful goal for some. It simply requires the intention to pause, to breathe, and to be present. Start with guided meditations if you find it challenging to meditate on your own. There are countless resources available online, apps, videos, and podcasts that can guide you through the process. Guided meditations often offer a step-by-step approach, which can help ease the mind into a state of relaxation and awareness. Over time, as you become more familiar with the practice, you may find that you can meditate on your own, without the need for guidance. Another method is mantra meditation. In this practice, a specific word, phrase, or sound, called a mantra, is repeated silently during meditation. This repetition helps to anchor the mind, preventing it from wandering off into distractions. The mantra serves as a focal point, a reminder of the divine, and can help deepen the connection to the spiritual realm. It's also helpful to create a sacred space for meditation. This doesn't have to be anything elaborate. A quiet corner in your home, a comfortable chair, or even a spot in nature where you feel at peace can be transformed into a sanctuary for your practice. This space should be free from distractions, a place where you can feel safe to relax and open yourself up to the divine. Over time, you will begin to notice the subtle shifts that occur as a result of your meditation practice. Your mind will become calmer, your emotions more balanced, and your sense of connection to the divine more profound. You may experience moments of clarity, insight, and deep peace during your sessions. These moments are reminders that the divine is always present, even when it feels distant or hard to grasp. As you continue to practice, you may also notice that your daily life becomes more centered and grounded. You may approach challenges with greater calm, interact with others more compassionately, and experience a deeper sense of purpose and meaning in your actions. This is the power of meditation, its ability to transform not only your inner world but also the way you engage with the world around you. But meditation is not a one-time fix. It's a lifelong practice, one that requires patience, consistency, and dedication. There will be days when your mind feels too cluttered, when your meditation session feels disconnected or frustrating. That's okay. The beauty of meditation is that it's about the journey, not the destination. It's about showing up, day after day, even when it feels difficult, and allowing the practice to unfold in its own time. Through meditation, we learn that the divine is not something we have to chase or search for. It is always with us, waiting for us to notice. By creating space for silence, for stillness, and for presence, we allow ourselves to be more attuned to the divine, and in turn, to ourselves. The more we meditate, the more we begin to understand that the connection with the divine is not external. It is an integral part of who we are. It is in the quiet moments, the moments of reflection, and the moments of connection with ourselves and others, that we find the divine most clearly. In the search for a deeper connection with the divine, one of the most transformative practices we can incorporate into our lives is gratitude. While meditation helps us create space for inner stillness, gratitude invites us to acknowledge and honor the beauty and blessings that are already present in our lives. It shifts our focus from what is lacking to what is abundant, helping us see the divine in the everyday, in the smallest details, and in the moments we might otherwise overlook. Gratitude is not simply about saying, thank you, or keeping a mental list of the good things that happen to us. It is a mindset, a way of being, and a spiritual practice that opens our hearts and minds to the presence of the divine. When we cultivate gratitude, we begin to notice the subtle ways in which the divine speaks to us, not through grand gestures, but through quiet moments, through the beauty of nature, through the kindness of others, and even through our own experiences of joy and struggle. The ancient practice of thanksgiving or giving thanks is found in nearly every spiritual tradition. In Christianity, it is expressed through prayers of thanksgiving. In Hinduism, it is part of the daily offerings and rituals that honor the divine presence. In Buddhism, gratitude is considered a fundamental practice for cultivating mindfulness and contentment. No matter the tradition, gratitude is a universal expression of recognizing the divine in all things. But how can we practice gratitude in a way that deepens our spiritual connection and enhances our relationship with the divine? The first step is to cultivate a daily gratitude practice. This can be as simple as starting or ending each day by reflecting on 3 things you are thankful for. The key here is consistency and mindfulness. It's not just about listing things, it's about truly feeling the gratitude, savoring the experience of thankfulness, and allowing it to fill your heart with warmth. You can keep a gratitude journal where you write down your reflections, or simply take a few moments in the morning or evening to silently express your thanks. At first, it may seem like a simple exercise, but over time, you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your perspective. You might start to notice the divine in the seemingly mundane, a stranger's smile, the sound of birdsong in the morning, the taste of a meal you enjoy. These small moments are all reflections of the divine. Reminders that the world is full of blessings, even in the midst of hardship or challenge. Gratitude also helps us shift our energy. When we focus on what we are thankful for, we invite more of that energy into our lives. It's a way of attracting positive experiences and fostering an attitude of abundance, rather than lack. By acknowledging the divine in the small and large aspects of our lives, we begin to see the divine as an ongoing presence, not a distant or separate force. Gratitude becomes a way to continually attune ourselves to that presence, inviting more peace, joy, and clarity into our lives. Another aspect of gratitude is its power to transform our perspective on suffering and hardship. Life is filled with challenges, and often, it's easy to focus on what's going wrong. However, when we practice gratitude, we learn to find meaning even in difficult circumstances. Gratitude doesn't mean denying pain or pretending that everything is perfect. It means recognizing that even in our struggles, there are gifts and lessons to be learned. By shifting our perspective, we open ourselves to the divine wisdom that may be hiding behind our challenges. In this way, gratitude becomes not just a tool for appreciating the good, but for growing spiritually through adversity. In addition to gratitude, another powerful practice in connecting with the divine is embracing silence in our daily lives. Silence is a sacred space, a space where the noise of the world fades away and we can truly hear the whispers of the divine. It is through silence that we can create room for spiritual insight and inspiration to arise. While meditation provides an intentional practice of silence, we can also integrate silence into our daily routines as a way of staying connected to the divine. In our fast-paced world, silence can feel foreign. We are constantly surrounded by noise, conversations, technology, music, and the busy hum of everyday life. But in the midst of this noise, silence offers us a refuge. It allows us to step back, to pause, and to simply be present with ourselves and with the divine. Whether it's a few moments of quiet before starting your day, or a dedicated time of silence in the evening, these moments of stillness can become powerful portals for spiritual growth. Embracing silence is not just about disconnecting from the external world. It's also about creating space within ourselves. Often, our minds are filled with a constant stream of thoughts, worries, and distractions. By intentionally cultivating silence, we begin to quiet the internal noise as well, allowing our true selves to emerge. In this space of quiet, we may receive insights, feelings, or ideas that guide us on our spiritual journey. It's in the silence that we learn to listen to the whispers of our intuition, to the subtle messages from the divine, and to the deeper wisdom within us. Incorporating moments of silence into our lives can be done in many ways. It could be as simple as spending a few minutes each day in nature, away from the noise of the world. It could be turning off your phone for a period of time each day to create space for inner reflection. Or it could be as structured as setting aside time each day for prayer or meditation, allowing yourself to truly sit in silence with the divine. The practice of silence, like gratitude, is deeply connected to mindfulness. It encourages us to be fully present in each moment, to tune into the subtle energies around us, and to deepen our connection with the divine. In a world filled with distractions, embracing silence can feel like an act of rebellion, an act of choosing to prioritize our spiritual well-being over the demands of the external world. As we continue on our journey towards strengthening our connection with the divine, it's essential to remember that gratitude and silence are not just practices to be done once in a while, they are ways of being. Ways of engaging with the world and the divine. When we practice gratitude, we are acknowledging the divine presence in all things, big and small, and when we embrace silence, we create the space for that divine presence to be felt and experienced more fully. These practices invite us to slow down, to notice the beauty and grace that are already present in our lives, and to deepen our connection to the divine. The more we cultivate gratitude and silence, the more we align ourselves with the divine flow of life, and the more we begin to feel the profound peace and wisdom that come from knowing we are always supported, always loved, and always connected to something greater than ourselves. As we deepen our connection with the divine, one of the most transformative practices we can engage in is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a deeply spiritual act, one that allows us to release the burdens of resentment, anger, and hurt that can cloud our hearts and minds. It is not always an easy practice, especially when we have been hurt or betrayed, but forgiveness is essential in the journey towards spiritual peace and a deeper connection with the divine. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior or pretending that injustices never occurred. It is not about condoning actions that have caused pain. Rather, forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from the emotional weight of those experiences. It is about choosing to let go of the negative emotions that bind us to past hurts. And in doing so, making space for healing, love, and connection with the divine. When we forgive, we align ourselves with the divine energies of compassion, understanding, and unconditional love. The act of forgiveness begins with self-compassion. Often, we think of forgiveness as something we offer to others, but the first step is learning to forgive ourselves. We are all human, and we all make mistakes. Sometimes, we may feel guilt or shame for the things we've done or failed to do. We may carry the weight of our own perceived shortcomings, thinking that we are not worthy of love or divine connection because of our past actions. But the divine teaches us that we are worthy of forgiveness, that we are always deserving of love and grace, no matter what. To forgive ourselves, we must practice self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and patience that we would offer a dear friend. It means acknowledging our mistakes, learning from them, and then choosing to move forward with an open heart. When we forgive ourselves, we release the heavy burden of regret and shame, and we make space for the divine to enter into our hearts and minds. Once we have forgiven ourselves, we can begin the process of forgiving others. This is often the more challenging aspect of forgiveness, especially when we have been deeply hurt or wronged. Forgiving others does not mean forgetting the pain or pretending that it didn't affect us. It simply means choosing to let go of the grip that anger, resentment, and bitterness have on our hearts. By forgiving others, we free ourselves from the emotional chains that bind us to the past. We give ourselves permission to heal, to move on, and to live fully in the present. Forgiveness also invites divine peace into our lives. When we hold on to grudges or anger, we are often consumed by negative energy that drains us emotionally, mentally, and physically. This energy blocks our connection with the divine and prevents us from experiencing the peace that is always available to us. But when we forgive, we create space for peace to flow into our hearts. Forgiveness is like clearing the clouds that obscure the light of the divine. Once the clouds are gone, the light shines through, bringing clarity, calm, and a sense of peace that transcends the turmoil of the world. In many spiritual traditions, forgiveness is seen as a divine quality. In Christianity, for example, forgiveness is central to the teachings of Jesus, who demonstrated unconditional love and forgiveness even to those who persecuted him. In Buddhism, forgiveness is a key practice for cultivating compassion and breaking the cycle of suffering. In Hinduism, forgiveness is linked to the idea of letting go of ego and attachment to past wrongs, allowing the soul to experience liberation. Regardless of the tradition, forgiveness is universally recognized as a means of aligning with the divine and fostering spiritual growth. One powerful tool in the practice of forgiveness is prayer. Prayer is a way of opening ourselves to the divine presence, asking for help in releasing the pain and resentment that may be holding us back. In prayer, we can express our hurt, our confusion, and our desire to heal. We can ask the divine for the strength to forgive, for the wisdom to understand, and for the courage to move forward with an open heart. Prayer is a way of surrendering our need to control the situation and trusting that the divine will guide us toward healing and reconciliation. In addition to prayer, another practice that can help us in the journey of forgiveness is writing. Writing allows us to process our emotions and express our thoughts in a safe and private way. By writing letters to those we need to forgive, whether or not we send them, we create an opportunity to release the pain that we've been holding on to. Writing allows us to articulate our feelings, confront our wounds, and gain clarity about our own healing process. It can be a deeply cathartic exercise, one that helps us shift our energy from resentment to peace. The power of forgiveness is also connected to gratitude. As we practice forgiveness, we begin to shift our focus from the harm that has been done to us to the gifts that lie within the experience. Perhaps through the pain, we have learned compassion, patience, or resilience. Perhaps we have gained insight into the depths of our own soul. By cultivating gratitude even in the face of hardship, we can find meaning and purpose in our struggles, and through that, a deeper connection with the divine. Finally, forgiveness opens the door to spiritual freedom. When we forgive, we break free from the chains of the past. We no longer allow ourselves to be controlled by the actions or words of others. We no longer carry the burden of anger or resentment. Forgiveness liberates us, allowing us to live fully in the present moment and experience the joy and peace that the divine offers us at every moment. It is through forgiveness that we are able to let go of the past, embrace the present, and open ourselves to the fullness of life that awaits us. Forgiveness is not always easy, and it may take time. It may require repeated effort, especially when the wounds are deep. But the more we practice forgiveness, the more we align ourselves with the divine qualities of love, compassion, and peace. As we forgive, we find that the divine presence becomes more tangible in our lives, and we experience a deeper sense of inner peace, knowing that we are free from the emotional burdens that once held us back. In the end, forgiveness is not just for the benefit of others, it is for our own spiritual well-being. It is through forgiveness that we find peace, healing, and a stronger connection with the divine. It is through forgiveness that we unlock the true power of love, compassion, and grace. And it is through forgiveness that we can truly experience the peace and joy that the divine has waiting for us. At the core of every spiritual journey lies the transformative power of love. Love is the very essence of the divine, and when we align ourselves with it, we step into a deeper and more profound connection with the universe and its source. The divine does not love us based on conditions or merits, it loves us unconditionally. This is a crucial aspect of our spiritual growth, as it teaches us to embrace the truth that we are worthy of love, no matter what we have done or how we may perceive ourselves. Unconditional love is not just a concept, it is a living, breathing energy that flows through all of creation. It is the force that connects us to the divine, to each other, and to every living thing. It is the energy that fuels compassion, empathy, and kindness. When we choose to cultivate unconditional love, we are not only enhancing our relationship with the divine, but we are also deepening our connections with others and with ourselves. To begin cultivating unconditional love, we must first start with self-love. This may sound simple, but in practice, it is one of the most profound and often overlooked aspects of our spiritual lives. Self-love is not about narcissism or selfishness, it is about honoring ourselves as divine creations, deserving of care, respect, and compassion. When we love ourselves unconditionally, we accept our imperfections and mistakes, and we extend the same kindness to ourselves that we would offer to a loved one. Often, we are our harshest critics, focusing on our flaws and shortcomings. We compare ourselves to others and feel inadequate. But unconditional love calls us to stop judging ourselves so harshly. It invites us to embrace our humanity, to recognize that we are all imperfect, and that imperfection is part of the divine plan. By loving ourselves fully and completely, we align with the divine love that is always present, and we begin to radiate that love outward into the world. Self-love is the foundation upon which all other forms of love are built. When we love ourselves, we are better equipped to love others. We can give love freely because we are not relying on others to fill us up or validate our worth. Instead, we are overflowing with the divine love that resides within us, and this love naturally extends to those around us, whether it's a friend, a family member, a stranger, or even someone with whom we have experienced conflict. The love we give is always rooted in the understanding that they, too, are deserving of unconditional love. But unconditional love is not always easy to practice, especially when we are hurt or when our relationships are strained. It's easy to love when things are going well, but the true test of unconditional love comes when we are faced with conflict, disappointment, or betrayal. This is where the divine teachings of forgiveness and compassion come into play. The act of forgiving others, even when they have wronged us, is an expression of unconditional love. It is an act of choosing peace over anger, understanding over resentment, and connection over separation. Forgiveness allows us to release the emotional weight of past wrongs and move forward with an open heart. When we forgive, we are no longer tied to the past. We are free to embrace the present moment and to continue our spiritual journey. Forgiveness is not just about the other person, it is for our own spiritual freedom. By forgiving, we make space for love to flourish, and we open ourselves to the divine love that flows through all of creation. One of the most powerful ways to experience unconditional love is through the practice of service. Service is an expression of love in action, a way of offering our time, energy, and resources to help others. When we serve others, we are not seeking recognition or rewards, we are acting from a place of pure love. Whether it's helping a friend in need, volunteering at a shelter, or simply offering a kind word to a stranger, service is a way of embodying the divine love that we are all capable of expressing. Through service, we cultivate a deep sense of connection to others and to the divine. We begin to see the divine in every person we encounter, recognizing that we are all reflections of the same source. The more we serve, the more we experience the truth that love is limitless. It cannot be depleted or taken away. The more love we give, the more love we receive. This is the nature of unconditional love. It is a force that expands and multiplies as it is shared. As we continue to cultivate unconditional love in our lives, we may begin to experience moments of profound spiritual insight. These moments occur when we align with the divine flow of love and feel its presence deeply in our hearts. We may experience a sense of peace and joy that transcends the ups and downs of everyday life. These moments are reminders that love is the true essence of our being, and that, when we open ourselves to it, we experience the divine in its purest form. But unconditional love is not something that can be forced or manipulated. It is a natural expression of our spiritual nature, and it arises when we are open, receptive, and willing to let go of fear, judgment, and attachment. It requires us to trust in the divine plan and to surrender our need to control or fix every situation. Love is not about possession or control. It is about allowing others to be who they are and accepting them as they are. When we approach life with unconditional love, we see the world through a different lens. We no longer focus on what divides us, but instead, we focus on what unites us. We see the divine in everyone, and we recognize that every experience, no matter how challenging, is an opportunity to grow in love. Whether it's a difficult conversation with a loved one, a challenge at work, or a personal struggle, love teaches us to respond with kindness, understanding, and compassion. It invites us to step outside of our ego-driven reactions and instead respond from a place of spiritual wisdom. The more we practice unconditional love, the more we experience the divine presence in our lives. Love opens us up to the infinite possibilities that the universe has to offer. It connects us to the sacred flow of life, and it transforms us into beings of light and love. Through love, we are able to heal, to forgive, to grow, and to experience the fullness of the divine within ourselves. As we strengthen our connection with the divine through love, we also experience divine peace. Peace is the natural result of living in alignment with love. When we love unconditionally, we are no longer caught in the turbulence of anger, fear, or resentment. We are anchored in the peaceful presence of the divine, and that peace radiates outwards, touching everyone and everything we encounter. The divine, in its essence, is love. It is through love that we connect with the divine, and it is through love that we find peace, joy, and fulfillment. The more we cultivate love for ourselves, for others, and for the divine, the more we experience the fullness of the divine presence in our lives. And it is through this love that we come to know, deeply and profoundly, that we are never truly separate from the divine. We are one with it, and it is within us, always. As we progress further along our spiritual journey, a profound realization begins to take root. Our connection with the divine is not confined to moments of prayer, meditation, or silence. It is not limited to sacred spaces or spiritual retreats. Instead, this connection is meant to infuse every moment of our daily lives. The divine is not something we visit, it is something we live. To live in alignment with the divine means allowing our spiritual awareness to guide our thoughts, choices, relationships, and actions. It means walking daily with the divine, allowing that sacred presence to flow through us and shape how we engage with the world. When we live in alignment, we no longer compartmentalize our spirituality, we embody it. We become vessels through which love, peace, wisdom, and compassion are expressed. But how do we live in alignment? Especially in a world filled with distractions, stress, and constant demands, it begins with mindful awareness. Mindfulness is more than a technique, it is a way of life. It means being fully present, moment by moment, in whatever we are doing. Whether we are washing dishes, talking with a friend, or walking down the street, we bring our full attention to the now. We notice the sensations, the emotions, the thoughts, without judgment. And in that awareness, we remain open to the subtle whispers of the divine. Mindfulness allows us to respond rather than react, instead of being swept up by emotion or driven by unconscious habits. We pause, we breathe, we ask ourselves, what is the loving choice here? What would the divine have me do in this moment? In doing so, our actions become more intentional, more compassionate, and more aligned with our highest self. A life lived in alignment with the divine is marked by integrity. This means living according to our deepest values and spiritual truths, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It means choosing honesty over deceit, love over fear, forgiveness over revenge. It means showing up in our relationships with authenticity, vulnerability, and compassion. Our spiritual connection becomes the compass by which we navigate our decisions, not for perfection, but for alignment. One of the most powerful aspects of living in alignment is recognizing that every act is sacred. There is no divide between the spiritual and the ordinary. Washing your child's hair, helping a stranger, preparing a meal, or doing your work with care, all of these can become spiritual acts when done with presence and intention. When we infuse our actions with awareness and love, we are honoring the divine in all things. This also means embracing our daily work as a form of service. Whether you're a teacher, artist, engineer, nurse, or business owner, your vocation can become a channel for divine energy. By approaching our work with a heart of service and the spirit of excellence, we become vessels of healing, inspiration, and transformation. Our work becomes our offering, and our life becomes a living prayer. Living with the divine also means listening to the inner guidance that flows through our intuition. The divine often speaks in whispers, a gentle nudge, a quiet voice, a deep knowing in the heart. When we are still enough to hear it, and brave enough to follow it, we step into the flow of grace. This may lead us to make unexpected choices or take bold steps. But the path will always be aligned with peace and truth. As we become more attuned to divine guidance, we may notice a new kind of confidence emerging, not the ego-driven confidence of superiority or control, but a quiet, humble assurance that we are never walking alone. We become more courageous in expressing our truth, more resilient in facing challenges, and more open in sharing love with others. This is the strength that comes from knowing we are rooted in something far greater than ourselves. Another vital part of living in alignment is cultivating spiritual disciplines that nourish the soul consistently. These can include daily meditation, journaling, contemplative prayer, reading sacred texts, or simply walking in nature. These practices help keep the inner fire alive. They remind us of who we are and where we come from. They don't need to be rigid or long, they just need to be real, honest, and from the heart. Moreover, as we embody divine alignment, our presence becomes a source of light for others. People may not always understand what we believe or practice, but they will feel the peace, kindness, and love that radiates from us. We become living examples of spiritual truth, not through preaching, but through presence. Our life becomes our message. Of course, living in alignment is not about perfection. There will be days when we feel disconnected, confused, or even lost. There will be times when we fall back into fear, judgment, or impatience. But even in those moments, the divine is still with us. What matters is not that we always get it right, but that we return, that we realign, that we remember. And that's the beauty of a spiritual life. It is not a straight line, but a spiral. We revisit lessons at deeper levels. We grow through cycles, and we are constantly invited back into connection. The divine is endlessly patient, always welcoming us home with open arms. As we commit to walking daily with the divine, we begin to experience a profound sense of purpose. Life is no longer just about survival or achievement, it becomes about love, service, growth, and sacred expression. We understand that our life is not an accident, that every experience, joyful or painful, is part of a larger story unfolding with wisdom and grace. We are not just individuals trying to find the divine, we are expressions of the divine, here to remember, to awaken, and to shine. And the more we live in that truth, the more we transform not only ourselves but the world around us. Because in the end, this journey is not only about connecting with the divine, it's about becoming one with it, so deeply, so fully, that our thoughts, our choices, and our lives become reflections of that sacred presence. As we come to the close of this sacred journey, a path that has led us through silence and gratitude, forgiveness and love, mindfulness and divine alignment, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of a profound truth. The divine has never been far from us. It was never outside of us, hidden in distant temples or clouded heavens. It has always been within, in our breath, in our pain, in our longing, in our joy, and in our stillness. The spiritual path is not about arriving at a destination, but about learning to walk with awareness, humility, and an open heart. It is about choosing, moment by moment, to return to love, to align with our inner truth, and to live with presence and intention. The divine does not demand perfection, it simply invites us to show up, to listen, to open, to remember. And what do we remember? We remember that we are not separate. We remember that we are not alone. We remember that we are not broken. We are whole. We are loved. We are divine. Throughout our journey, we have come to understand that connection with the divine is not a one-time experience, but a lifelong relationship, intimate, evolving, and alive. It is a relationship built not just in moments of worship, but in how we treat ourselves, how we forgive others, how we love without condition, and how we respond to the world when no one is watching. We have learned that gratitude opens the heart to grace, that when we stop chasing what's missing and begin to honor what is already here, the divine reveals itself in simple, ordinary moments, a quiet morning, a shared smile, a whispered prayer. We have learned that forgiveness is not weakness, but spiritual courage, that when we release the past, we reclaim our freedom and make space for divine peace to dwell within us. Forgiveness is how we remember who we are beneath the hurt, souls born of light. We have learned that unconditional love is not a fantasy, it is a daily choice. A commitment to open our hearts even when it's hard, to soften our judgments, and to extend kindness without keeping score. Love is the bridge between the human and the divine. We have learned that living in alignment is not about living without flaw, but about living with awareness and intention. It is about asking ourselves each day, how can I serve? How can I love? How can I listen to the divine voice within me today? And in this remembering, we begin to see that our lives, just as they are sacred. That our wounds are places where light enters. That our questions are the doorway to deeper truth. That our longing for something more is not a weakness, but a holy invitation. An invitation to come home. Home, not as a place, but as a presence. Home, not as escape, but as embrace. Home, not somewhere we find, but something we realize we never left. The divine does not reside in a future we must earn. It resides here, in this breath, in this body, in this imperfect, beautiful moment. Every time we pause and become still, every time we choose peace over pride, every time we forgive instead of resent, every time we love without needing anything in return, we come home. And once we realize this, everything changes. Life is still life. There are bills, heartaches, responsibilities, and disappointments. But under it all, a quiet river of grace begins to flow through our days. We start to feel supported, even in struggle. We start to notice beauty we had missed before. We begin to trust, not blindly, but deeply, that there is a wisdom greater than ours at work, weaving meaning into even the darkest nights. This is not the end of your journey. It is only a beginning. The words on these pages are not a map, but a mirror, reflecting back to you what you already carry. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being invited to return to who you already are beneath the noise, the conditioning, and the fear. You are a soul with purpose. You are a heart that can heal. You are a light meant to shine. Let your life be your prayer. Let your actions be your offering. Let your presence be your testimony to the divine. You do not need to do this alone. The divine walks beside you, in the people you meet, in the silence that soothes, in the intuition that whispers, and in the strength you didn't know you had. When the world feels heavy, return to your breath. When your heart feels broken, return to stillness. When doubt creeps in, return to love, because this is the truth. The divine has never left you. It never will. It is within you, around you, and longing to live through you. So rise each day with gratitude. Meet each moment with awareness. Walk each path with love. And when you forget, because you will, remember, you can begin again, in any breath, in any silence, in any act of love. The divine waits for you, not in judgment, but in joy, not in fear, but in freedom, not in distance, but in your next courageous step toward home. Welcome back. You are loved, you are seen, you are sacred.